Hello, welcome to Separated by Water podcast. The 2025 Europa League Cup final is finally upon us. It's an all-English affair with Tottenham Hotspur taking on Manchester United in Bilbao tomorrow evening, 8 p.m. I'm going to do most of the talking tonight, or most of the interviewing. Colin, my co-host and friend, is a Spurs fan, as you know. Colin, how are you? Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm excited and I'm nervous. I'm not nervous because you're hosting the show tonight, although, but I get up at 3 o'clock tomorrow morning, quite nervous about how I'm going to do that and then get over there. I can't lose this feeling of doom, sadly. For all that I should know at my age, I'm highly superstitious. So, I've all my lucky t shirts and sweatshirt and everything and socks laid out, but I'm not sure there'll be enough. So, there you go.
Well, it should be said, none of your superstitions have worked in the last number of years, so maybe you should just park all of them and just go with your normal clothes. But anyway, we're
Well,
also joined by another
about
Spurs supporter.
55 lucky shirts.
55, okay, sure, okay. We're also joined by another Spurs supporter and a seasoned Man United supporter, although he's outnumbered 2-1. On the eve of this cup final, we'll introduce Tim, remaining on the Spurs side. Tim Houston, how are you?
I'm very good. Hi, guys. Good to be with you tonight.
Tim, has to be said, this time last week when I invited him on, he said, if it remained the way I am, I can't do it because he's sick. He was very sick. So well done for doing it. And thanks for coming on with us, Tim. Stephen, how are you?
I'm grand, Paul. Thanks for inviting me on.
No, as I say, you're outnumbered 2-1, but I'll try and keep the balance as tight and as fair as I can. Okay, guys. It's basically all chat about the cup final tomorrow night, and then we'll have a wee bit about the Champions League at the end, and a wee bit about Forest, where they're going to end up in the Europa or Europe, one of the three cups. Although the Champions League's looking even more in doubt by each game, but you never know. You never know. Anyway, we'll get straight into it. Guys, the boogies can't separate this. And it has to be said, it's been an underwhelming season for both of you. Steve and Tim, does this cup final, does a win save your season for you? Stephen, if you want to go first there.
Does it save the season? No, it doesn't.
Yeah. No.
The performance of United throughout this season has been an embarrassment. I was watching one of your episodes there recently. It was the one with Newcastle with my nephew Anthony in it, and you showed a screenshot of the table as it stood at that time. And Colin made the remark that thankfully Spurs were up on the top of the table, but only just. I think they were 10th at that time. Man United were 13th. Both of the teams have gone downwards, and I think for the history of both teams, it is an embarrassment. For Man United, I think it is probably slightly more understandable because they have not been a coherent team for many seasons, and all this chopping and changing with the managers. I don't like it. If United win the Europa League tomorrow, it'll look nice on the resume, but I do not think that it saves the season.
Fair enough. Tim, what about Spurs? Does it save your season?
Well, no, I don't think it saves the season. I think very much as Stephen says, it's been a season that's steadily got worse, and it's hard to comprehend. I know there's been injuries and a lot of things going against us, but even having said that, for the size that Spurs is, the amount of resources in theory they've got to have done so poorly, it's baffling. So I do hope we win tomorrow, and at least we get that, get something in the empty cabinet. But even if that happens, there's a lot of questions to be asked.
Yeah. I think from a neutral looking in, I just can't see any coherence in either of the teams. I seen and I'm not kicking in I seen a stat the other day, and Paul Jewell's worst team, which was Derby, the worst record in history of 11 points in a full season. Amorim's actually below them. in points per game. So there is something wrong. There's something that's very seriously wrong. And I wonder, will it be fixed before the start of next season, or he's in for a turmoil of the season next year? Colin, what do you think? Do you think next year you have the makings of fixing it?
No, I don't think there's too much to be done. I unfortunately don't have the sort of rose-tinted glasses that some of my fellow fans have about. But injuries will always happen. I think the team has gradually become weaker over the last 5 or 6 years, incrementally, and I think it would take a summer of Man City type proportions, which won't happen, to get it right again. What would be success next season? God knows, we're under serial qualifiers for the Champions League and fell just short on a number of semi-finals and finals. Many of them, Stephen and I shared either United were in, or all our teams, or Chelsea, it's not in them. But we're that close, now we're not. And I'm really delighted to be in the final. Our first final was called the Europa of the Europa. I think it was called the Europa Cup or the UEFA Cup in 1972. It was against Wolves, other English opposition, so you don't win the cup. But I like everyone's saying, I still think that it does it mask? It can't be allowed to mask a deeper problem in there. I'm not sure. What about the manager? I don't know. Well, let's leave that for the moment. I think Spurs are further away than they think they are.
Well, on that, Colin, it's been talked now that the Champions League position for winning the Europa League Cup is they're talking about not doing that in the future. Is that the carrot and the stick? Is it bigger than the trophy itself, or is champion? Is it a value?
Well, if you're asking me, not really. For me, the trophy is the big thing because it would be a monkey off our backs. It would be great to celebrate something for once, and I think that's what comes the icing on the cake in many ways for Spurs. For me, is then Champions League. Which, what are either of these teams going to do in the Champions League? We saw Barcelona versus Inter. We saw PSG. United and Spurs, they currently sat, might not make it through the qualifying stages.
Yeah.
So
as it stands, usually the winner will go into pot one of the Champions League, which is potentially deemed to be the easier of the options. Tim, I'm personally not asking Colin about this because he loves to take a stick out and beat Levy. Do you believe that a victory will be a reprieve for your manager, Ange? I personally think Ange will go before. I'll be on record on that. I think Ange will be gone before the start of the next season. Win or lose, I think that he'll be moved on. But do you think this is a reprieve that Ange needs, and maybe to Daniel Levy to get the fans off his back?
So with Ange, he was interviewed today and he said, win or lose, he was staying. So I don't know what that means. I know what it means, but whether he's playing a game, I don't know. It's worth spending a few minutes on Levy, really. So Levy bought into Tottenham in 2001. He had a couple of percent before that, but he bought a 27% stake from Alan Sugar for 22 million. And he currently owns 85%, and Tottenham's worth between 1.3 and 1.8 billion. The other stat that I looked up is the revenue. So Tottenham's revenue is the fourth. So it goes City, Man U, Liverpool, Spurs. I looked it up for the 22-23 season. Mm-hmm. So what does all that mean? Tottenham is a wealthy club. So the question is, why aren't they investing more in players? And that's the big question. But Levy owns 85%. He's not going anywhere. What we really need is a mentality shift where we start investing in better players and have a deeper squad. Let's say we do win tomorrow and we're in the more European games. It's going to be a nightmare We couldn't even cope with the games this year with the injuries. And I'm not making excuses around, but you played players for so long without taking them off, then they were getting injured. It happens. The depth of the squad isn't there.
No.
So I think there has to, surely, I don't understand. Livy's a very clever businessman. Surely he understands that if he creates a more successful club, he could create one of the best clubs in Europe. I can see it happening. In terms of the manager, I haven't got a clue. I don't. We've seen what's happened at Man U, where you change the managers every year, every 2 years. It doesn't make a difference. So I don't know what is the right thing with Ange, stay or go. It's easy just to blame somebody, and there are things I wish he had done differently. But there's times when all 4 defenders have been out. There's times when there's youngsters on the pitch. For a club that is so wealthy, that's mad. So something has to change. If you're a businessman and you want to create a successful club, which will increase that 1.8 billion value, you're thinking you want to invest. Yeah. So it's anathema to me. I agree, and he's quoted in saying, look, some of the wages and some of the amounts that Premier League spending, it doesn't make any sense. I agree with that. That's the game we're in. If you can't get the best players, how is Tottenham ever going to win any more trophies again?
Yeah. Stephen, bearing in mind, as I said to you about the record that Amorim has, same question. What do you think? Are you going to keep him? Or are you in the camp? Are you rebuilding something and keep him, let him build his squad over the summer and then go again? Or what do you think?
I think and I hope that United will keep Amorim. I don't really see that they have any options at the minute, unless some really big name comes along. But I think from the point of view of stability, United need to keep Amorim, and they need to give him time. I think they made a big mistake with Moyes after Sir Alex left. He was there for less than a season, and they got rid of him. Yeah. I thought that was very unfair. Now, whether Moyes would have actually done a decent job with United, I don't know. But I thought it was very unfair of United to get rid of him so quickly. Tim has alluded to, United have this habit of changing their managers. I think since Sir Alex left, the longest serving manager managed just over 3 years.
Yeah,
that's not good enough. Not to develop a team, not to instill the type of tactics that a manager wants the players to play. This is not schoolboy football where everybody played 4-4-2. This is modern. This is different styles, different techniques, different tactics. The manager has to be able to instill that on his players, and that's going to take time. Yeah. So I think Amorim needs time.
Yeah, I think the irony of it is that they've never been as bad as 16th and 17th place. Normally, if they'd been that low down, they'd get rid of them far earlier than that. Both Spurs and both United, but they're keeping them. They all seem to be sticking with them. The academy system clearly isn't working either for either club, but does it work for any club at the minute? Colin, the English final, we were chatting there before we come on, English final and the difficulties getting to Bilbao, costs, logistics. Should they move the final to Villa Park or somewhere at a big club? Take the pressure away from travelling supporters.
In 2019 we had Liverpool and Madrid, and now we've Man United and Bilbao. That's talking from a Spurs point of view. I probably need to look at a couple of points about it because I know things have to be arranged 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever years in advance. I think that given the size of support of some of these teams, I think that they should seek bigger stadia. 53,000 of those teams could fill that out a couple of times. United 70,000, every week. Spurs 60-odd thousand every week. And given that most of those tickets are going to corporate, I think it's pity. It could be perhaps that they could have a list of, say, 2 or 3 stadia for the match, which would take into account who's likely that nobody will play at home, as Bilbao could have been, and that teams may get a ground which is equidistant from their respective cities, and there are enough times built in for people to do it. To arrange it. I also think that UEFA, who are criminal in taking travelling fans who turn up and make the atmosphere, for granted. And what I've heard about the price rises in flights and accommodation in these places, I think it's a scandal, that it's allowed to be done, and that the travelling fans, the ones who, as I say, make the atmosphere. These games, we've seen COVID, these games were played in empty stadia. And yet the people who spend a fortune to get there are taken terribly for granted. I think there needs to be a revision and a new policy, a new strategy for the real fans, those who turn up for the games. I think there will probably be 100 reasons why that can't be the case, why those can't be the case. But I do think that you could say, okay, the options this year are, for say Wembley Stadium, somewhere in Poland, somewhere in the south of it. So you've got an area, Napoli, for example, and you could say, right, who are the 2 teams who are going to contest the final in a month's time, and those grounds are ready to go, and then people can get and the prices should be maintained, that the local hostelries should maintain prices at a doable level. Just a thought.
Yeah, fair enough.
Paul, one thing I'd say before we move on is I also think there's a problem with allocation. So I think Bilbao takes about 50,000, just over 50,000. I think 12.5 went to Tottenham, 12.5 went to Man U. From memory, 15k went to neutrals, and I guess 10k went to corporate. I'm not sure the mix is right. I think Colin's point is correct. The ground's too small. But even if whatever ground it is, I think the allocation just seems a bit strange to me.
Yeah. I think there's always going to be a back. UEFA's always get shrouded with doubt and financial things, so God knows what's going on. I don't know. Guys, I don't want you to dig out Man United and Spurs, but finishing 16th and 17th in the Premiership, do you think it's a bad reflection on the Europa League? Tim, you want to start on that one?
No, I don't. I don't think that at all. It's like, so you could say Crystal Palace shouldn't have won the FA Cup. It's like people play differently at different times, and you've still got to win the games to get through. So no, I absolutely don't think it's a bad reflection. I think the respective positions of Tottenham and Man United are a bad reflection on the club. And it's very sad to see in both cases. But I don't think it's a bad reflection on Europa League at all. Anyway, I just say thank God for the Europa League.
Yeah.
Thursday night football, Colin. I agree with Tim. The allocation for the Europa League was based on last year's performance, and both teams did better last year. The fact that the 2 teams have managed to get through the Europa League compared to their abysmal performance in the Premiership, it amazes me. Now, I don't know whether that's a reflection on the other teams or whether it's Man United and Spurs have risen to the occasion this year, and they were fighting for something. Having seen some of the recent performances in Europe, I think Man United are still the only team unbeaten. Sorry, Tim. In the Europa League this year. Why couldn't they do that in the Premiership?
That's why I'm asking the question. And that's why I'm asking the question: is the quality in? And I take your point, Tim, about Crystal Palace, but Crystal Palace are sitting, I think, 9th or 10th in the Premiership. They've won the FA Cup, which is
no. But my point is if you follow your argument, it should be Liverpool winning the FA Cup, or I don't know, or Arsenal.
Yeah, well,
and that's not how life works.
No.
Also on that, I think that the new system, like Liverpool winning the Champions League thing, they I know it's a different competition, but the system of that this year, they won the group stage and ended up getting harder teams in the next step, and that's what knocked them out of it. But yeah, I take your point, but the point I'm trying to make is that Crystal Palace finished 9th or 10th. As it stands at the minute, they're going to finish 9th or 10th. They might even get into the 8th place. They won the FA Cup, and that's reflective in their cup run. 16th and 17th, which is 2 places above the relegation
You're
zone.
getting very cocky because we're not Forest is in the league. That's the problem.
And I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it because, as I told you early on, whenever you've done your predictions
this year, because it might not be the same next year.
I'm enjoying it. I'm going to enjoy it. I am going to enjoy it.
Paul, I've got 2 words for you, Paul. Wigan and Leicester.
Yeah.
Wigan won the FA Cup. Leicester won the Premiership.
Yeah.
And then off they went.
Yeah, Stephen, I've been supporting this team for 53 years. I know how bad it can get. Trust me, I know how bad it can get.
One thing about the Europa this year, I think it's true that until previous years with the new setup, no teams dropped down from the Champions League. 3rd place in each group of 4 used to drop down from the Champions League to the Europa League. That didn't happen this year. So the field or whatever 3rd place teams, whether that strengthened it or weakened it, it's hard to say because I think there was a stat to say that the winners had not come from that Champions League group in previous years anyway. Everyone we knew what the reward was at the start of the season. We all went for it. There were big teams in there: Roma, Lazio, others, and Spurs and United got there. Spurs United made hard work of it too with a Leon. But we're here now.
I am delighted, and I do wish you both the very best. And I've no skin in the game at all. I've none whatsoever. But I will ask you, with the rising up the short term next year, we've already talked about recruitment with Amorim, recruitment with Ange, spending money. With the re-emergence of Newcastle, Villa, Bournemouth, Brighton, and Forest all up there, what do they need to do in the short term to bounce back? Stephen, what do you think? What can they do to be competitive next year?
United need a striker because the 2 that they have, they don't function properly on their own. I would prefer to see 2 people up front. I'm going to fall back into one of my old hobby horses. I think United played better 4-4-2, and whatever they changed got away from the 2 dedicated wingers and the 2 wing backs. Their performances went downhill. I think they need a striker. I think they need to solidify the midfield. They need somebody who is going to be a blocker. Somebody who is going to stand up to the charge that is coming at them. And they need stability in defence. They have had so many different combinations of defenders this year in the Premiership. Sometimes you see them turning up. It looks as if they've never played together before, that they've only just met. So I think United need stability, but they also need a striker and a midfielder. That's...
Everybody needs a striker, but I take your point. Tim, can Spurs do something in the short term to be competitive next year?
Well, let's assume the manager stays in place. So I think it's great in the depth of the squad. If you look at the defence is really good. Sorry, I think it's really good sometimes when all 4 are fit. But there's hardly a match where all 4 are there. Sometimes it's 0. So that says to me, then, if your defence, you need really strong backups, not backups that are going to struggle. And then you got to talk about the same in midfield and attack. And Son's not the player he used to be. That's quite sad to see him come back from injury, to be honest. But anyway, so you have to build up the squad, and it's got to have that. I don't mind bringing the youngsters through, but sometimes you play four or five of these youngsters, and you play against some of these huge players, and they get outclassed and injured. So I think you've got to build up that squad. You've got to spend some money. I don't know what, but I think Ange needs to take a slightly different approach. And I do think that we could see, like, I'm not a manager, so what do I know? But he seemed to keep players on for so long, where really in this day and age, you have to, with 20 minutes to go, change them, because otherwise you run them into the ground and then they get injured. So I think there's a lot of work. And I wonder, we always talk about the manager, but it's always made up of, a lot of other support staff, your set piece coaches and all these others. Are they good in Tottenham? I don't know. So you've got to look at the whole setup and say, look, how are we going to make this club into a great club again, like in the 60s? So how do you do that? And look, it's beyond my pay grade to give you all the answers, but that's what a football club is. That's their business. That's what they need to do. And it doesn't just stop with Ange. It's Levy. It's the whole lot of them. They need to roll their sleeves up and say, look, I've screwed up this season, and I'm going to try and work out how to put it right. I do think that Tottenham hasn't been quite as bad as Man U for changing managers, but they've had their moments. So and we saw what happened with Everton when they changed the manager. Suddenly they started winning games and became a defensive, a great team overnight. It was like bizarre. I lost a lot of points in fantasy football. I was very sad. But anyway, so I think there's work to be done at Tottenham, and it's not just pointing fingers at the Ange or Levy. It's saying, look, knock all those heads together and work out how to become winners, for God's sake. You've got the most amazing ground. You've got tons of money. Teeny Max, as I read out the revenue earlier, in 2023, Chelsea and Arsenal had less revenue than Tottenham. It's unbelievable. I don't know what it is in this season, but look, they've got the money. They've got everything. You just need the will to become winners. And you need to build up that team. And you need to pay back all your supporters that come day in, day out, and going home depressed 10 minutes before the end of the game.
Yeah.
Poor old Colin getting up at 3 every morning to get to the games.
Yeah. That's the thing. I mentioned that to you a couple of times, Colin. Is the culture missing? Is there a winning culture missing at Spurs?
Yes, there is, and I'm part of that. I mean, I'm going tomorrow and hope more than expectation, but I've just been so battered by disappointment that I'm afraid, in many ways to set myself up for a thing. It has to be broken. It can be broken by bringing in winners. Manchester City came from nowhere. They brought in people who only knew how to win. We need that. And I would love to say, and it starts tomorrow night. I would love to say that. For me, pragmatically, I think what Spurs could do with is an injury-free season, impossible as that might be, to find out how good we actually are with our top players. And that might be enlightening. It could be good or it could be bad. But it might put us somewhere where we can say, well, at least now we really know where we are with this group, and where it is good enough, or it needs incremental change, or it needs radical change. But we'll probably not know until we do that. And I think a team like Spurs, for all their money and their medical facilities, should really be looking at their assets and saying, why are they on the sick bed more often than they're on the pitch? Got to sort that out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look. As always, if you're watching us, please jump on the comment section. We had a couple of comments there earlier, and please hit like and subscribe to the channel. It's free. Tim, Stephen, we'll start with you first. Where are you watching the game tomorrow evening, and what are you expecting? Are you expecting a free-flowing game with loads of goals, or a boring stalemate match that bores the ass off us?
Right. Okay. Deal with the easy one first. I am watching it at home in my large screen studio. It was one of my lockdown projects during COVID. I converted the garage into a studio, which includes a 156-inch diagonal screen with yeah. So that's 4 meters diagonal. It's basically the full width of the gable end of the garage. So I've got a few friends coming around, and yeah, we'll do that. Thankfully, the garage is soundproofed, so my neighbours will not be able to hear me swear. My prediction for the game.
Hopefully, you'll be swearing a lot.
Well, yeah, but that might be good swearing, Tim. So my prediction.
I don't want a score. I don't want a score prediction. I don't want a winning prediction. That'll come in a bit. I want to know.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to be a free-flowing game or a stalemate disaster?
No, I don't think it'll be a stalemate disaster. I think both United and Spurs have the ability to make attacks. So I think it might be a little bit end to end. I don't see it being a stalemate in the midfield. I think there will be plenty of action at both ends of the pitch.
Okay. I hope so, because I'm looking forward to it, and I hope so. And we've been spoiled recently, and we'll get into that, the Champions League semis. We'll get into that in a minute or two. Tim, what you expecting? Where are you watching it? Are you traveling?
It's a very sore subject. So my son and I tried to get tickets. We couldn't get tickets. So he's like Colin, he's going to the ground to watch it. But I live in Portugal, so I didn't bother, to be honest. And then on Monday, my friend rang me up, and he's over in Portugal playing golf. And I said, how come you're not in Bilbao? Because he has 6 season tickets for Man U. He said, oh, I was on this golf holiday. I said, I could have got your tickets from you. And so anyway, so I'm going over. They're about an hour from me, so I'm going over to have a barbecue and watch it with these Man U fans. And stay the night, and so we'll have a few beers, a few glasses of wine, there's steak on the barbecue, and hopefully I'll be rejoicing all night. God be willing.
Nice.
Very good.
Well,
sorry, Tim. Can I just ask you, whereabouts in Portugal are you?
I live in the west of the Algarve, so I'm near Lagos.
All right. Yes, we're heading over again. Me and my girlfriend go over to Portugal quite often, so we're heading over to Porto in a few weeks' time.
Oh, very good. I actually went there the other day, and I didn't want to go there. So there's a day when all the electricity ran out.
Yep.
And so anyway, I couldn't get my car out the garage because I couldn't open the door.
Oh,
no electricity, and I was getting a flight from Faro to Porto and Porto to Malta, and I had to be in Malta for this meeting. So anyway, I looked and the flights were going. Got a cab there. There was all the petrol stations shut. The cab was running out of diesel. Got the flight to Porto. I was really happy. First time in Porto. Whole shutdown. Nothing. Yeah. And no electricity. Nothing. Nobody knowing anything. It was like the worst decision of my life. I hope you have a better time in Porto.
Thanks.
You should have stayed at home. Tim, are you expecting a free-flowing game tomorrow night?
Say that again, Paul.
Are you expecting a free-flowing game or a disaster tomorrow night, or what do you think?
No, I think knowing the two sides, because they're not like the best defending sides, are they?
No.
I think it'd be free-flowing. The only thing is, it's interesting to look at Tottenham, because in the first half of the season, they would get more goals than anyone. And lately, goals have a little bit more difficult. So I'm hoping that Tottenham would defend well, because they've got the 4 defenders all back and hopefully in good condition. So I'm hoping a close game. Now, I do think that we've played Man U, I might be wrong on this, 3 times, and I think we've beaten them. So I don't know whether that's a good omen or a bad omen.
I don't know
bad
either.
Omen. Has to be a bad omen.
Colin, what are you expecting from the game? And
it won't be boring to me. No matter what happens, really, quite honestly. I don't care how it goes as long as Spurs don't make fools of themselves. I really hope that there's not a controversial decision, a referee's decision or something like that spoils the game like I felt it had done in the Champions League final 6 or whatever years ago, I really do, because we usually come off badly in those kind of decisions, you know. But Albert, I've already said, I'll be at Hotspur Stadium. So I hope I'll get carried away by the atmosphere, and there's hoping United edge at Spurs don't win twice.
That's one of my fellow Nottingham Forest supporters.
Well, there's an early comment coming in saying about Ange is achieved by a semi-final and a cup final this year, which I accept. Yeah, and if he stays on, that's what I hope we get an injury-free season and see how we go. But the match pans out as long as we win.
Okay, Colin, well, while you're in the seat, talk us through your day tomorrow. I know you're not going to Bilbao, but you're going to, or Bilbao. You're going to talk us through your day tomorrow.
Well, the song is, "Oh, we're going to Bilbao. Arsenal are watching Emmerdale." So we'll get that somewhere along the way. But I get up at 3 a.m. I live 70 miles away from just Belfast City Airport. So I get up at 3 a.m. I put on my immersion heater, lie for another 20 minutes, counting every minute. Get up, have a quick shower, get ready, cup of coffee. I hope to be out of the house by 10 to 4. I make the journey down. Hopefully there's no traffic or no hold-ups or anything. Try to get down there just after 5. Get in through security, which is a bit better now because you don't have to take out your laptop or your iPad and your toiletries and all that. And then probably I'll have probably a couple of nerve-settling drinks. And then hopefully take it easy for a while until we get up to the ground. We stay in Hackney, so we'll get up there, have some food, leave our stuff off, and hopefully get up to the bars at the ground, the stadium bar, Coach and Horses, Bar Rate, and the Bricklayers. We'll not go out as far as the Gilpin's Bell. I don't think 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, maybe do the rounds. So we've been into the ground, some gate and then into the ground for 7:30. And then we'll see.
Tell us about the layout of the ground. How did they set it up that you can watch it from inside the ground?
Yeah, it's set up as if you're watching the match on the pitch. So there'll be 4 large screens on the pitch, north, south, east, and west. And then the corner screens are also showing the match, and the ones that usually do the VAR or the playbacks. The large screens in the ground, also around the drinks areas, and all will be showing the whole thing. So
it's great, isn't it? Levy, no expense paid.
Yeah. I mean, it is good. Yeah, well, as your pockets lighten, but it is credit where credit's due. It's an excellent ground, and if anyone could take the emotionally move me from White Hart Lane, he probably managed to do that. The beauty of it, Paul, probably for people like me, is that I could have been round Stevenshouse surrounded by Man U fans, and it's the wrong day for us all to be there. The mate I travel with, Big Chris, he and I will be in amongst thousands upon thousands of guys all over the place, girls, guys, men, and we'll have a really good time. So the good old knees up starts, and we really enjoy all of that. And then the football starts, goes and ruins it all, which usually happens, and then we're back. Well, I've already checked out that our local bar near where we stay, the Oslo, is open until 12:30 after midnight. We might need to be down there. And then we have a taxi ordered in the morning to run us up to Luton. We do that. It's our one indulgence because I don't think we'll be in any state to negotiate the trains. And then we're back home, hopefully, flight out by 1 o'clock, back home about 3:30, 4. And I don't know what mood we'll be in.
Yeah.
But big day. This season, the travelling, this season has been very poor for us. We've had a lot of defeats. The games were badly loaded in terms of pre-Christmas, post-Christmas. And over, obviously with family commitments and things, you can't go at Christmas or Easter or Mother's Day, whatever the hell, and hopefully it'll be kinder next year and we'll make better use of our season tickets. There you go.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'll start with Tim. Predictions for the game. I want a score. And if you want to throw in who's going to score, if you want to say whether it's first half, second half, extra time, penalties, go ahead.
I must admit, I haven't been thinking of a score. I'm going to say 3-2 to Tottenham.
Normal time, yeah?
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Stephen?
I think it'll be a draw, a score draw at the end of ordinary time. I have a suspicion that one of the teams will get a winning goal in extra time. And I'm going to put my neck out and say, yeah, same score that Tim predicted, except that it's going to be in Man United's favour. So 2-2 at the end of ordinary time, 3-2 in extra time.
Okay. Superstitious, Colin?
Yes, what can I say here? I have a sinking feeling that a Bruno Fernandes penalty is going to be in there somewhere. And I hope it's not the winner. I just would feel sick watching that my face running about a smirk, you know.
His petulance is annoying, I have to say.
Got to come out for my team. I've got to lift myself and get up there and say, yeah, we're going to pull it off. I think this is Tottenham's chance to prove all the doubters, even within ourselves, the doubt within ourselves, that it need not be there anymore. The winning mentality that Tim talked about starts tomorrow. Let's go. 2-1.
What's the score, Colin?
2-1.
2-1. Okay, perfect. Okay, I wish you both teams no skin in the game, and I can absolutely say that I wish you both teams the very best in the game. The only thing is that I'm more likely to get a slagging from Man United supporters if they get Champions League after Forest sitting in the Champions League position all season. And so I may be just swaying lightly towards Spurs, but nothing much, I have to say. I just want to mention a couple of comments. Michael Crooks joins us. That was a Leeds contributor. Yeah. Congratulations, Michael, on your promotion and victory in the Championship. Okay, change the subject now, Colin. We're going to go to the Champions League. What have you got for us?
Oh, I just wanted to mention it. I thought we should mention it. Anyone who saw the Barcelona Inter game, what a feast. What a feast of football that was. And probably ironically appears there's more interest at the minute in the Europa League final than the Champions League final. But I think PSG versus Inter will be a real feast. But the Inter-Barca game, if you saw them, were incredible. Great play, great stakes too, but wonderful, wonderful stuff. I used to say that if aliens came to Earth and asked me what is football, I would always refer them to the 1970 World Cup winning Brazil team. Probably now I would refer them to that match, which I think is a better example. And possibly, would it be, or more exciting, better than, probably call it football was better than the Ajax Spurs semi-final for excitement and madness, you know. Anyone want to do a quick prediction? PSG or Inter?
Tim?
Went on mute. I think, oh my goodness. I kind of want Inter, so I'm going to go for Inter. But PSG is playing very well, so who knows?
Stephen?
I am exactly the same. My allegiance is going to go to the Italians, as you'll note.
Oh,
So I want Inter to win. I suspect PSG will win.
I'll just comment on the semi-final, and I don't think I've ever watched a game of football like it in my life. It was absolutely astounding. It was mental. It was just like I thought it has to be over now, and it has to be over, and it has to be.
Yeah.
It just kept on happening, and it was an amazing game. I think PSG have got too much in the bag for them. I'd love Inter to do it because I just don't like what PSG are and how they were formed. But anyway, that's a different story. I think PSG will win it, and I think they'll win it by a goal, maybe 2 goals. So.
I think with a feeling PSG's name's on it. Well, I take what's been said about PSG, but I like the way they've dismantled that current Galactic.
Oh, absolutely, thing. They have.
And that manager is a good guy. And I think he said, I will come here on conditions that I run the show. And the way they played against Aston Villa, Liverpool, and others, where they were backs against the wall. PSG teams prior to that would have probably folded. I don't want to try to. They really came back strong, and I just have a feeling that they've got it right this year. Character.
Yeah, I think the way he came in and he said he took the prima donnas out of the team and said that there would be no. They're a team. They're not individuals, and I think they've done that. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. Interesting to see what happens. Good, couple of good finals to look forward to, actually.
Aye. Okay, well, we've got a time, Paul. We couldn't get through separated by water without a quick reflection on matters for us. What's happening there?
Everybody, I was asked this last Thursday night at poker as well. What was your man doing on the pitch? I hasten to add, if Levy or the Glaziers appeared on the pitch, I think you should be delighted because they're finally shown some passion behind their team or their club. He was there because Taiwo Awani had been injured, and the offside rule, I think, is ridiculous as it is. I was at the far end of the pitch. I was in A block, which diagonally was the farthest point away from where Anthony Alanga was. Oh, by the way, thanks for Anthony Alanga, Stephen. Great player.
Yeah, can we have him back?
No. But I could diagonally see from where I was that he was 2 or 3 feet offside. And they let the game play on. And I understand the game that they want to let it roll out until... But that's for a close decision. If I can see it from the far end of the pitch, what's the point of letting somebody run on, seriously injuring himself, rupturing his intestine, having to be taken induced into a coma, and then brought on. But anyway, Nuno. First thing I'll say to you, Nuno is safe. Nuno is going nowhere. He has got the team taken over. He had one pre-season with them. We'll have a second pre-season, all being well this year. Either way, no matter what happens this year, we've had a good season. We're still possible to get into all 3 of the European competitions. And I don't particularly care which one it is. I would happily take the Europa because I think we could go far in it. I don't think we'll do well in the Champions League, but I've said previously, and I'll say it again, financially, it could be a better option for us. But it's... you watch Marinakis win or lose, he meets them at the far end of the tunnel and shakes hands and gives every one of the players a hug. He's there to stay. He believes in it, and he's got passion, and he does the same when he's over at Olympiacos. And I think a lot of owners could learn a lot from him, and the players love him as well. The players absolutely love him. So that's my Tuppence. It was a good game. There was inevitability of the equalising goal that Leicester had. And that came about with Awani. Anderson being taken off and left on, and one thing or so. Anyway, there was inevitability about it. But anyway, I'm happy with the season, and we'll see what we do against Chelsea on Sunday. And we'll never know. We might see whichever one of your teams make it into the Champions League. We might see you there next year. You never know. You never know. Just never know.
That'll be good. Okay, thank you.
Just want to touch on.
I could just say.
Go on ahead, Joe. Sorry.
Just one thing I wanted to just say a very brief tribute to the sports writer Brian Granville, who died in '93 at the weekend. He had written for the Sunday Times and World Soccer, many journals over the years. He was one of the great guys. In the days before we saw so much football, we depended on written commentaries. He could make it poetic. He could bring it to life. He could do everything about it, and he was a giant. In terms of compared to many of the people nowadays, he also had some great expressions. Remember, one was at United and West Ham. It was McAvenny challenged the goalkeeper with all the poise of a man wielding a chair, and I thought, a nice expression. But he had a great detail for tactics too. He studied Italian football, hence writing for World Football. I think it's another one of the greats for those of us who still like to read. Who's gone, but he'll be commentating on games up in heaven, I'm sure. So, personal tribute.
Perfect. Okay. Just before we go, before we started the start of the season, we set up a fantasy Premier League, which I sort of showed an interest in. Tim, it looks as if you've won it. 100 points before the last game ahead of Jack Ryan, who put up a good fight against you. Third at the moment is Sean Robinson. How do you do it? I think you're nearly 1,000 points ahead of me. I don't know how you do it.
But actually, I was like Tottenham. I had a bad second half of the season. I went skiing and I went from 20,000 odd to 200,000. So I've been clawing my way back. So today I'm 30,000. So I've gone in about the last 5 weeks from 200,000 to 30,000. So I'm trying to finish at 25,000. So we'll see how it goes. But it's not that I know more about football than other people. I just look at the money of players and the probability of them scoring. I've upset my son because I'm very dispassionate. Like, if it's choosing players against Tottenham or whatever, I ignore the teams. To me, it's just a calculation of picking the right players and trying to take low risks. I don't play a risky game. So I don't really want players that get injured a lot or might not play. So it's, in some sense, it's a boring game. But it's not been a bad season. But Jack's done really well. So
it's unbelievable. Yeah,
for a long time, he was ahead of it.
He stayed in your shirt tails the whole way. He just dropped off last week, 100 points behind you now. So unless you have a terrible week and he has a blistering week, which I can't see happening, you've won the 200 quid, which is winner takes all. Stephen, one question that we always ask everybody who comes onto the podcast: why their team? Why Man United?
Right. One of my uncles did a trial for Manchester United back in the 1950s. He was a contemporary of George Best, and he completed the trial in Belfast and then was invited over to Manchester to take part in a second trial. My grandfather was not supportive of that, so my uncle ended up playing golf and becoming a bank manager instead. So I was a child. My earliest recollection of Manchester United playing in a big stadium was the 1977 FA Cup match against Liverpool. My brother, who's a few years younger than me, he was a Manchester United supporter as well. But just before the kickoff, he decided that he was going to support Liverpool because of reasons. So I stuck with Manchester United. I think it was because of my uncle and a few other uncles as well. And it's just been a thing for me since I was earlier than 9, but 9 is my first recollection of a match.
50 years supporting them then. That's good. That's excellent. Well done. Well done. Fergus Harrington just said there, Amorim needs more time. So it seems to be a train of thought that all the managers are supported and should be given another season to do.
I think it's funny that people are saying Amorim more time when he's really had the worst season, and previously Man U managers have gone when they've been a lot higher up, and we're also saying he bad, and he's had the worst season.
I know. I mentioned that earlier. It's the worst record, worst history they've had.
Well, in Amorim's favour, and there's a piece Martin Samuel had written the weekend where he said that, remember, Amorim did not want to come until the end of the season.
That's right.
Because he said this is what would happen. And he wanted a close season to turn it all around. So he predicted this would happen, but he was told by Radcliffe, it's now or never. You won't get the chance again. So the push, forced his hand. So really what they're saying is, this is what I said would happen. So he can't be sacked because he's already predicted this. It's the guys who forced him to come and forced Ten Hag out. Well, in this. So I think Amorim's very, very safe. Whether he has the competence or whatever, the foresight, and gets the support to change it remains to be seen. Same with Ange. I like Big Ange. I really like him, but I have issues with how we've played at times. And I hope the hell tomorrow night those fullbacks aren't wandering up, the field aimlessly. You know what I mean? I really want them in position, playing anything else after that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's all tomorrow night. I think is all in the roll of a dice. It's down to them. It's just like that. It's just roll the dice. and I wish you both well. If I could just say, future episodes next week with a Forest special. We'll know where we are in Europe this time next week, and I want to thank the guys who made me welcome over at the Rosario now, the City Ground, the Nottingham Forest, our Magic supporters group. They made us very friendly with us. Charlie Vaughan is on with us next week, and Chris Aylmer he's a co-host of the Forest All Over podcast. The following week we have Paul Canning and Timmy O'Sullivan on, who are Liverpool supporters, and will discuss their successful season, winning the Premiership as convincingly as they did. So I hope all the Man United supporters will join us for that one. And anyway, guys, thanks very much. Tim, you've been fantastic. Your first second time around contributor, so thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for being back, guys.
No, it was great having you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Stephen, anything you want to add before you go?
No, just take this opportunity to say that Colin was invited down to my house to watch the match. And as he said there, he decided not to because of the preponderance of Man United supporters. I'll just remind him about the support that he had whenever Tottenham were playing against Arsenal, and we happened to be away from home at that time. So you still owe me for that one, Colin.
Oh my God. Spurs won 5-1. It was a semi-final. We were in that Australian bar in Swansea. Don't ask. And we'd been in a tapas bar before that. And we just ordered a full bottle of wine, uncorked it when I realised the time. So we wandered out with, eventually you found this bottle of wine inside your coat, and you carried it all around the place with not one drop of it. Yeah, that was the night of the found the only gay disco in Swansea and got out of there quickly. No offence to anyone, but it was so we use the word surreal. I do remember that. Yeah, I also remember you were there the night of the Spurs Ajax, which was tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
And a very special man was with us there too that night. In your call,
well,
your family.
Paul, then you want to add before we head off?
No, just feel while you were hosting, I said per my soul, I really, really would love Spurs to win. I think it could, like Rory McIlroy winning the Masters, there might set us up and start us on a real train, So I'm shouting, singing my heart out tomorrow from about 6 o'clock in the morning, probably.
Well, I wish you.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Tim.
I wish both teams the best of luck, and I do mean that. And I'm looking forward to the final myself. So that's the next week Forest, following week Liverpool, and during the out of season we'll do a special with Pablo. He wants to talk to us about the corruption within the Spanish league and his hatred of Barcelona, and it could be only put down as the word hatred of Barcelona.
Yeah.
Guys, thanks very much for contributing, and wishes all the best. Enjoy your final. Enjoy it, because you don't get finals that often. Try and enjoy it, and the outcome will happen anyway. And thanks very much for helping us out tonight and joining us, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.